Today is Wednesday, June 27th, and we finished up our last day in London. I say last day, but really it was our second day, or our 24 through 48 hour portion of our trip. It was kind of a whirlwind trip to London, and I probably wouldn't recommend anybody to try to do London that way, because we're pretty tired. But for the amount of time that we had, we made the most of it. So on the agenda for today was the British Museum, the Imperial War Rooms, the Museum of Gardening, and then we tried to squeeze in the Royal Mews, but we didn't quite get there. Anyway, the British Museum was huge. It was very, very impressive. It's like the largest collection of stuff in the entire world. The thing is, this museum, it's not really set up like an interactive touch and feel exhibit kind of thing like you'd see in the United States. Like from what I remember from the Smithsonian, there were a little bit more interactive displays and that kind of thing. And even like the Lincoln Museum in Springfield, there's a lot of things where the museum goer becomes a participant in what's going on. But that's not the way this one's set up. It's more of really just a collection of fantastic things from all over the globe assembled in a way that you can, take them in. Kind of like the Field Museum in Chicago, if you've ever been there. But the scope of what was there was absolutely incredible. You have pieces of armor and equipment dating back to Beowulf time. You have mummies that were probably the most well-preserved mummies that I've ever seen, including not just traditional Egyptian mummies, but also mummies from African tribes that were buried in sand pits in woven wicker baskets, and they had the basket and what was left of the remains still curled in the fetal position. So that was pretty crazy. They also, I guess I didn't realize, and Joe had to fill me in, that most of the things in the museum were in private holdings that got donated to the museum, but people got these items a lot of times by going out and exploring or just taking stuff. So I saw the majority of the Parthenon without even having to go to Greece because it's here in the British Museum. I guess that's kind of a bone of contention between Greece and Britain. Greece wants it back because, it's the Parthenon, and England wants to keep it because it's England and they can take care of it. So it'll be interesting to see if that ever comes to pass. But anyway, most of the museum trip was for Joe, but there was a really nice exhibit on horses. The development of horses in Kazakhstan, the domestication of them, the breeding of them, the creation of the Arabian breed in the Middle East that eventually got imported into Europe, into England specifically, and then fostered as a racehorse breed. I didn't realize that thoroughbreds were English horses that were crossed with Arabians. That had never really sunk in. So it was great to see the connection to agriculture, as tenuous as it may be, to the British Museum, which sees, millions of people in a year. So we finished up there, went to the Imperial War Museum. 2 thumbs up for the Imperial War Museum. That place was great. And, I'm not a huge history buff, but I loved it. All of the military equipment there in, pristine condition. I got to see the war balloons and rockets. I got to see the A-bomb that got dropped on Japan. It was incredible. Didn't think that, I had no idea that that's what I was going to see today. And their World War I and World War II exhibits were really, really fascinating. And I think mainly because the United States, of course, was involved in both those wars, but I think it was definitely more real to Britons because they were so close. The war really could have been literally in their backyards. Learning about air raids and learning about the role of women in the war efforts. It was really kind of eye-opening, and it's my second favorite thing that we did in London. So we kind of had to tear ourselves away from there to try and make time to go to the Museum of Gardening. Now, not a huge trip, Not something that you need to go to London for the specific purpose of going to this place. But it was really quaint, and it was, my part of the trip, so I thoroughly enjoyed myself there. And, we wound up having to leave kind of early, but if I was to do this again, the things that were on my London to-do list that we didn't quite get to get in, I would go to the London wetlands. There's a huge wetland education area that I think would be pretty interesting. Of course, the zoo, because I'm a sucker for anything in a zoo. The Royal Mews, and I would have liked to take in a theater show to see that part of it. We had to skip out on the London or on Shakespeare's Globe, but we're going to Stratford upon Avon, so pretty much the same thing. And kind of get an idea of how the environment ties into what's going on here. Tour Buckingham Palace, Kensington Palace, but maybe tour some of the gardens and meet with a gardener. The Museum of Gardening really opened my eyes to that's an area that I didn't decide to explore on this trip, and it's something that I could see building an entire experience around gardening and gardens in England. So we're off to the Royal Agriculture College tomorrow, and then some other sites later on this week. So wish me luck in nursing my feet back to health, and hopefully we have nice weather for Cirencester tomorrow.